The sky over human space was quiet, but the calm was only on the surface. Far beyond the outer planets, massive shapes moved like shadows. Alien fleets, larger than anything humanity had ever faced, were approaching. Each ship was taller than cities, bristling with weapons that gleamed in the distant light of stars. The aliens had conquered many worlds, and now they had set their sights on Earth and the colonies scattered across the system. Inside the human command station on Titan, alarms blared. Officers shouted and ran to consoles, checking every sensor, every signal. Panic hung in the air. Most people could not imagine facing a fleet so enormous and so well armed. Some suggested evacuations, others called for immediate attacks. In the midst of the chaos, one person sat calmly at a small console. His name was Taro. Taro had been a pilot for many years, though few people in the command station had noticed him. He was quiet, speaking only when necessary, and he had a strange way of studying the smallest details. While others panicked over the size of the alien armada, Taro looked at their formation, their speed, and their approach angles. His eyes moved quickly over the data, noticing patterns that others missed. The officers around him did not understand his calm. One young officer asked, "How can you sit there without fear? Look at them. They are 100 times stronger than us." Taro did not answer. He did not need to. His hands moved across the controls, plotting possible paths for the human ships. In his mind, every movement of the alien fleet had a response. Every attack had a counter. The humans had a fleet, but it was small. Most ships were old, built decades ago, designed for trade or patrol rather than war. Still, Taro saw potential in them. A single ship could outmaneuver the largest alien vessel if it used the right strategy. He began to write orders that seemed impossible at first. Small groups of ships would split off, move silently, and strike in ways the aliens did not expect. Meanwhile, the alien fleets continued to advance. Their commanders watched their screens and laughed. They had never seen humans fight in space before. To them, humans were weak, disorganized, and easily crushed. They had fought species that were larger, faster, and stronger. Humans were just a minor nuisance. Taro understood their confidence. That confidence was a weakness. He knew the aliens had never faced someone who could see beyond power and speed. He studied the shapes of their ships and the way their fleets moved. He imagined how a single human pilot could slip through the gaps, strike key points, and force the aliens to make mistakes. At the same time, other humans tried to follow the command orders, but fear slowed them down. Pilots argued over tactics, engineers debated the strength of their weapons, and politicians demanded reports. In the middle of this, Taro worked silently, sending instructions in short, clear commands. He organized a small strike team, a few ships that could move faster and react to threats in ways the aliens could not predict. The day passed slowly, and tension grew. On the surface of Titan, civilians watched the skies, wondering what the future held. In space, the alien ships moved closer, their shadows stretching across the asteroid fields. They did not expect resistance, and they certainly did not expect someone like Taro. When the first signals of contact appeared, most humans were ready to panic. The aliens sent probes, tiny ships that scanned and analyzed. They believed these small scouts would reveal the humans' weaknesses quickly. But Taro saw through the probe's movements. He directed the human ships to avoid detection, to stay hidden, and to prepare for a strike that would surprise the invaders. Even as the alien fleets drew nearer, Taro did not speak much. He did not need to shout, and he did not need to show fear. His presence gave hope to those who watched him. Slowly, other pilots began to follow his instructions. They learned to trust his calm judgment and his careful planning. They began to believe that even one human could make a difference. By the end of the day, the alien fleets were still approaching, massive and confident. But Taro had already planned the first steps of resistance. He knew that when the battle began, he would need to act quickly and decisively. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and they had certainly underestimated one silent human. Taro sat quietly, looking at the data before him. His mind moved faster than the ships outside, faster than the alien fleets. In his silence, he prepared for what was coming. The galaxy did not know it yet, but one human would change everything. The human fleet moved cautiously through the asteroid belt near Saturn. The ships were small compared to the alien vessels, but Taro knew that size was not the only measure of strength. He guided his strike team with calm precision, sending each ship into a position that gave them the best chance to surprise the enemy. The alien scouts had already detected signs of human movement. They moved closer, confident that any resistance could be crushed in moments. Their sensors were advanced, their weapons powerful, but they did not understand one simple thing: humans could think in ways the aliens could not predict. Taro observed the scouts carefully. He noticed how their engines caused small energy fluctuations, and how their flight patterns left tiny gaps between their ships. To most humans, these details were invisible. To Taro, they were opportunities. He began issuing orders, directing his team to move silently and strike only at the right moment. The first contact came unexpectedly. An alien scout passed close to a small human ship. The human pilot held steady, following Taro's instructions. Then, using the asteroid field for cover, the human ship darted in, striking the scout's engines with a precise energy pulse. The scout exploded in silence, leaving only debris floating among the rocks. Other humans watched in amazement. A single small ship had destroyed a much larger alien vessel. Taro did not celebrate. He simply continued to give instructions. He knew this was only the beginning, and that the aliens would respond quickly if they realized what had happened. The alien fleet reacted, sending more scouts and a few larger ships to investigate the explosion. They expected humans to panic or retreat, but Taro's team remained steady. He guided each ship with careful timing, using the terrain of the asteroid belt to block enemy sensors and limit their movement. One alien ship tried to flank the human position. Taro had already anticipated this. He signaled two human ships to intercept, moving quietly through narrow gaps in the asteroids. The aliens were too large to follow. When the humans attacked, they disabled the alien ship's weapons without destroying it, leaving it stranded and unable to fight. The aliens were confused. Their confidence wavered as they realized humans were not following predictable patterns. They adjusted their tactics, forming tighter formations and moving more cautiously. Taro watched their movements, learning from every adjustment they made. He knew their patterns could be used against them if he remained patient. The battle continued for hours. The human ships struck and retreated, using speed and clever positioning to avoid the heavier alien weapons. Taro's team never fired unnecessarily. They targeted weak points, disrupting engines and communication systems, causing confusion among the alien fleet. Despite their size and power, the aliens began to make mistakes. One of their larger vessels, trying to chase a human ship through a narrow asteroid pass, became trapped. Taro seized the moment. He directed a precise strike on its engines, leaving the ship drifting, unable to continue the fight. The humans gained confidence. They saw that with careful planning and quick thinking, they could hold their ground against a far stronger enemy. Taro's calm leadership inspired his team. Pilots who were nervous at the beginning of the battle now followed his instructions without hesitation. The alien commanders grew frustrated. They had never expected a species so small to challenge them. Each failed attempt to corner a human ship made them angrier and slower to react. Taro observed every action, noting weaknesses in their strategy that could be exploited in future encounters. As the sun began to rise over Saturn, the first skirmish ended. The alien scouts retreated to regroup, their initial confidence shaken. The humans had lost a few ships, but the victory was clear. Taro's careful planning had turned the tide, proving that intelligence and strategy could match even the greatest strength. Taro remained quiet. He did not celebrate or speak to the other pilots. Instead, he reviewed the battle, noting every success and every mistake. His mind already worked on the next steps, knowing that the aliens would return stronger. The first skirmish was only the beginning, but it showed something important. One human, calm and clever, could change the outcome of a battle, even against an enemy so much larger and stronger. The team returned to the command station, tired but filled with a new hope. They began to understand what Taro had always known: humans were not weak. They could fight, adapt, and survive. And as long as Taro remained silent and focused, the aliens had no idea what awaited them in the battles to come. The alien commanders gathered in their flagship, surrounded by screens that showed the scattered human ships. They were angry and confused. A small group of humans had damaged their fleet, and the aliens could not understand how. They had overwhelming numbers, advanced weapons, and experienced crews. Yet, the humans had surprised them at every turn. One of the alien leaders said, "They are clever, but they are only one species. They cannot continue to fight like this." Others nodded, thinking that if they just pushed harder, the humans would crumble. They had no idea that one human, the quiet pilot called Taro, was behind every successful strike. Meanwhile, Taro studied the alien fleets carefully. He had noticed patterns in their movements and weaknesses in their coordination. Their ships were large and powerful, but they were not flexible. They relied on strict formations and predictable signals. Taro realized that a few small human ships, moving cleverly and unpredictably, could create confusion among the aliens. Taro began planning the next phase. He divided his strike team into even smaller groups, each with a clear task. Some ships would act as decoys, drawing the aliens into traps. Others would hide and strike at key points, targeting engines or communication systems. Every move was carefully calculated. At the same time, the aliens continued to underestimate humans. They sent more ships, expecting to crush the remaining human vessels quickly. Their scanners were strong, but they could not detect Taro's hidden ships. He used asteroids, small moons, and debris fields to shield his team. When the aliens thought they were advancing safely, they suddenly found themselves trapped by human ambushes. One human ship, led by a young pilot named Gina, darted between two alien cruisers. The aliens fired, but the ship moved too fast and too precisely. It struck the cruiser's engines and escaped before the aliens could react. Taro watched the operation calmly, guiding every action through subtle signals. Each strike left the aliens more frustrated and less confident. The humans' tactics were unlike anything the aliens had faced. They were used to attacking large, predictable enemies. Humans were small, clever, and daring. They thought creatively and acted independently when needed. This difference made the aliens' confidence waver. They began to second-guess themselves, slowing their movements and wasting precious time. Taro also focused on morale. He never shouted orders or demanded attention. His calm, steady presence reassured the pilots. Even those who were afraid felt stronger when they followed his plan. They learned to trust in his judgment and to act without fear. With every successful strike, their courage grew. The aliens, on the other hand, grew careless. Their overconfidence became their weakness. They sent a cruiser into a narrow asteroid field, hoping to trap a small human ship. Taro had predicted this. He directed two human ships to hide in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. When the cruiser moved too far, the humans struck together, damaging its engines and leaving it stranded. By the end of the day, the alien fleet was scattered and uncertain. They had lost several ships to humans who were much smaller and seemingly weaker. Their commanders argued over strategy, blaming each other for the failures. Taro's team, meanwhile, remained calm and ready. They had not celebrated a single victory. Each pilot knew that the aliens would return stronger, and that they had to be ready. Taro realized that the key to human survival was not just strength. It was patience, observation, and clever thinking. The aliens could destroy ships with firepower, but they could not anticipate every human move. This gave humanity an advantage that no weapon could match. Even the youngest human pilots began to understand this. They learned to watch, think, and act like Taro. Small victories built confidence. Every success against the aliens made them stronger and more united. For the first time, the humans felt that the alien threat, though powerful, could be resisted. As night fell over the colonies, Taro remained at his console. He plotted new moves, studied the enemy's weaknesses, and prepared for the next encounter. The aliens still believed humans were weak and easy to defeat. They had underestimated one silent human, and that mistake was changing the course of the battle. Taro's silence became his greatest weapon. No alien knew his full plan. No one could predict his next move. And as long as he remained calm and clever, humanity had a chance to survive against enemies far stronger than themselves. The galaxy had not yet realized it, but the aliens' underestimation of humans would be their greatest weakness. And the quiet, focused human at the center of it all was ready to show them just how dangerous one determined mind could be. The human fleet prepared for the next encounter with the alien forces. The aliens had grown cautious after the previous skirmishes, but they remained confident in their numbers. They believed that humans could win only small battles, not a decisive one. Taro, however, had a plan. He had studied the enemy movements, their predictable patterns, and their overconfidence. He knew this could be the first major victory for humanity if executed carefully. The battle began near a massive space station orbiting a small planet. The station was critical for human defense, supplying fuel and weapons to the fleet. If the aliens captured it, human resistance would weaken. Taro organized his strike team, dividing them into 3 groups. Each group had a special role. Some ships would act as decoys, drawing enemy fire and attention. Others would attack weak points in the alien fleet. The final group would stay hidden, ready to strike at the perfect moment. As the aliens approached, their confidence showed. They moved in tight formations, assuming humans would be easy to trap. Their weapons systems were powerful, but slow to react to sudden changes. Taro watched carefully, analyzing every move. He remained calm, giving short, precise orders. The humans trusted his judgment completely. The first attack began with the decoy ships. They flew boldly toward the alien fleet, drawing their attention. Alien turrets fired, energy beams cutting through space, but the decoy ships were agile. They weaved between attacks, leading the aliens further into the asteroid field near the planet. The aliens followed, not realizing they were being lured into a trap. Taro's hidden group moved quietly. They positioned themselves behind asteroids, waiting for the right moment. When the aliens were distracted by the decoys, the hidden ships struck. They targeted engines, shields, and communication arrays. One by one, the alien ships began to lose control. Confusion spread quickly through their fleet. The third group, led by Taro, moved with precise timing. Using the chaos, they struck at the alien command ship. A direct hit disabled its main engines and knocked out most of its systems. The alien commanders struggled to maintain order. Their fleet, once confident and disciplined, was now scattered and vulnerable. The human fleet pressed the advantage. Each ship followed Taro's instructions, attacking and retreating in perfect coordination. The aliens tried to regroup, but Taro had anticipated their actions. His strategy forced them to make mistakes, collisions between their own ships and misfires that damaged several vessels. The humans achieved something extraordinary. With careful planning, clever maneuvers, and perfect timing, they destroyed a large section of the alien fleet. Several massive warships were disabled, leaving the aliens weaker than ever. The space station remained safe, and the humans had proven that even a small fleet, guided by strategy and skill, could defeat a much stronger enemy. Taro remained silent throughout the battle. He did not celebrate or speak. His calm focus inspired everyone around him. Even the youngest pilots, who had been afraid in the first skirmish, moved with confidence and precision. They had learned from Taro that intelligence and patience could outweigh brute strength. The alien commanders were stunned. They had faced many species in their conquests, but humans were different. They were small, fragile, and seemingly ordinary. Yet, through clever thinking and bold tactics, they had inflicted a defeat that would be remembered in the alien fleet. Their overconfidence had blinded them, and now they were paying the price. After the battle, the human fleet regrouped near the space station. Engineers worked quickly to repair damaged ships, and supplies were replenished. Taro studied the reports, noting what had gone well and what could be improved. Even in victory, he focused on preparation for future challenges. He knew the aliens would not give up easily, and humanity needed to be ready for their next attack. The pilots celebrated quietly. They had seen the power of careful planning and courage. They had witnessed a silent human, calm and unassuming, lead them to victory against impossible odds. They began to understand that strength was not just about weapons or numbers. It was about patience, observation, and the ability to act at the right moment. For the first time, humans across the colonies felt hope. They had survived the first major battle, and they had shown that the aliens were not invincible. Taro's leadership, quiet and methodical, had made the difference. One human, focused and determined, had changed the course of a war that many thought was already lost. The galaxy had not yet realized it, but the humans were no longer just survivors. They were fighters, strategists, and a force that could challenge even the mightiest fleets. And at the center of it all was Taro, the silent human who had turned fear into strength, and doubt into victory. The alien commanders were furious. Their fleet, once confident and well-ordered, had suffered a heavy defeat. They had underestimated the humans and now faced the consequences. Reports came in of damaged warships, lost crews, and confused commanders. They knew that Taro, the quiet human pilot, had orchestrated much of the damage. Despite their anger, they did not give up. They gathered their largest fleet and prepared for a full-scale attack on the human colonies. They believed overwhelming force would finally crush the resistance. Taro, however, was ready. He had studied the aliens carefully, anticipating their every move. He had already planned how to turn their strength against them. The humans prepared for battle. Every ship, from the smallest scout to the largest cruiser, was positioned carefully. Taro divided the fleet into specialized groups. Some would attack directly, some would ambush, and others would protect critical supply lines. Each pilot had a clear task and knew exactly when and where to act. As the alien fleet approached, their overconfidence showed. They moved quickly, expecting humans to flee or fight blindly. Taro observed them calmly. He saw the patterns in their formation, the way they relied on strict signals, and the hesitation that came from their recent defeats. He knew that if humans acted together, with clever timing, they could cause massive damage. The battle began near a dense asteroid field. Taro used the terrain to the humans' advantage. Small groups of human ships darted in and out of cover, striking alien vessels before disappearing into the shadows. The aliens tried to respond, but their larger ships could not maneuver quickly. Every attack forced them to scatter, creating gaps that the humans exploited. Taro led a special strike team targeting the alien command vessels. These were the largest and most important ships in the enemy fleet. With careful precision, the humans disabled engines, shields, and weapons, leaving the command ships vulnerable. The aliens tried to regroup, but Taro's strategy forced them into mistakes. Collisions occurred, and several ships became stranded or damaged. The humans pressed the advantage. Taro's calm guidance allowed them to strike where the aliens were weakest. He coordinated attacks on supply lines and communication networks, leaving the enemy fleet disorganized. The humans, though smaller in number, moved with perfect timing and coordination. Each strike weakened the aliens further, while human losses remained minimal. The turning point came when Taro anticipated an aggressive maneuver from the alien leaders. They sent a group of heavily armed cruisers to flank the human fleet. Taro had already positioned a hidden force to intercept them. As the cruisers advanced, human ships emerged from the asteroid field, attacking the alien engines and communication arrays simultaneously. The enemy was trapped and confused. For the first time, the aliens experienced true fear. They realized that humans were not just surviving, they were dominating the battlefield. Taro's clever use of strategy, terrain, and timing had turned their strengths into weaknesses. The human fleet moved with unity and precision, striking in ways the aliens could not predict. Even young and inexperienced pilots performed bravely under Taro's guidance. They had learned from his example that fear could be controlled, that patience and observation were as powerful as any weapon. Every successful maneuver reinforced their confidence and showed them the value of clever thinking over brute force. By the end of the battle, the alien fleet was scattered and broken. Many ships were destroyed or abandoned. The human colonies had survived another attack, and the humans had proven that one silent, determined leader could change the course of a war. Taro remained calm, studying the battlefield and noting every success and every failure. He knew that this victory, while important, was only a step in a larger struggle. The aliens would return, perhaps with even greater numbers. Humanity needed to continue adapting, learning, and improving. The pilots celebrated quietly, proud of what they had achieved. They understood that Taro's leadership was more than skill, it was a mindset. Calm, focused, and observant, he had guided them to victory when the odds seemed impossible. The humans now knew that intelligence, patience, and courage could overcome even the greatest strength. In the command station, Taro prepared for the future. He plotted new strategies, anticipating the next move of the alien fleet. His mind worked tirelessly, analyzing patterns, predicting outcomes, and ensuring that humanity would always have an advantage. The turning point was clear. Humanity had moved from defense to offense. The aliens, once confident and dominating, had learned the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated. And at the center of it all was Taro, the silent human whose calm mind and clever strategy had changed the course of the war forever. After the latest victory, humanity had begun to recover and rebuild. Colonies that once feared alien attack now had hope. Ships were repaired, pilots trained, and defenses strengthened. Taro had become a central figure, not through words or speeches, but through his actions and the respect he inspired. He continued to observe the alien fleet carefully. Their commanders were angry and frustrated. They could not understand how humans, so small and seemingly weak, had caused repeated defeats. Every movement they made seemed predictable to Taro. He studied their formations, their communication methods, and even their tendency to overreact when challenged. Taro began training human pilots in ways no one had imagined. He focused on thinking, observation, and strategy rather than sheer power. Each pilot learned to predict enemy moves, use terrain and obstacles to their advantage, and act with precision at the right moment. Young pilots who had once been nervous or unsure became confident in their abilities. The aliens tried to counter this new human approach. They sent spies, tried to intercept communications, and experimented with unpredictable attacks. Taro anticipated many of their moves. His calm observation allowed humans to adjust quickly, avoiding traps and striking back with maximum effect. Every battle taught them more about the aliens, and every victory increased human confidence. One day, Scouts reported that a large alien armada was preparing to attack a vital human colony on a remote planet. The aliens believed that overwhelming force would crush human defenses. Taro did not panic. He studied the fleet, noting their speed, formation, and weaponry. He developed a plan that used clever positioning, ambushes, and minimal risk to human lives. Taro's fleet arrived near the planet before the aliens. Using moons, asteroids, and gas clouds as cover, he positioned human ships in ways the enemy would not expect. He sent small decoy teams to draw attention while hidden strike groups waited for the perfect moment. Every move was timed precisely, every ship in place before the aliens realized they were being trapped. When the alien fleet approached, they were confident as always. They expected an easy victory. Their weapons fired, and their ships moved aggressively. Taro's human fleet responded calmly. Small groups darted in and out, striking engines, shields, and weapon systems before retreating to safety. The aliens could not adjust fast enough. Their attacks became disorganized, and confusion spread quickly. Taro himself led the final strike group. His ship moved silently through the battlefield, targeting the alien command vessels. With careful precision, he disabled their engines and communication arrays. The alien leaders could not coordinate, and their fleet began to fall apart. Every move Taro made demonstrated patience, skill, and strategy. Humans began to realize the power of one focused mind. Even small groups of ships could take on much larger forces when led by intelligence and careful planning. Pilots trusted Taro completely. They followed his instructions without hesitation, knowing that his decisions would save lives and lead to success. By the end of the battle, the alien armada had been forced to retreat. Many ships were damaged, and several had been destroyed entirely. Humanity had not only defended the colony but had also struck a major blow against the enemy. Taro's calm leadership had turned the tide once again, proving that intelligence and strategy could defeat even the strongest fleets. After the battle, Taro remained at his console. He analyzed every move of the aliens, noting weaknesses, learning from their mistakes, and preparing for the future. He spoke little, but his actions taught every human pilot what was needed to survive and win. His presence had become a symbol of hope, courage, and clever thinking. Even the colonies far from the battlefield began to hear stories of the silent strategist. Humans started to understand that their greatest strength was not just technology or numbers, but intelligence, creativity, and courage. One quiet human had shown that careful observation, planning, and patience could overcome even the greatest challenges. Taro's mind never rested. Every new threat, every alien movement, was carefully studied. His strategies became more complex, more effective, and more inspiring. The humans learned from him that success was not always about force, but about thinking, adapting, and acting at the right time. The galaxy began to see a new truth. Humans were no longer the weak species that aliens could dismiss. They were clever, adaptable, and determined. And at the center of this transformation was Taro, the silent strategist whose calm mind and careful plans were shaping the future of humanity. The aliens would continue to come, and battles would continue, but one thing had become clear. As long as humans followed Taro's guidance, their fleets would be clever, coordinated, and unstoppable. One quiet mind had changed the course of a war, and humanity would never be underestimated again. The galaxy trembled as the alien armada returned. This time, they brought every ship, every weapon, and every strategy they had. Their anger and pride drove them forward, convinced that humans could be crushed once and for all. But Taro was ready. He had studied their patterns, anticipated their moves, and trained every pilot to act with intelligence and courage. The human fleet gathered near a massive asteroid belt, a perfect place to turn the enemy's strength against them. Taro divided his ships into specialized groups. Some would distract, some would ambush, and others would strike at critical targets. Every ship had a role, and every pilot knew their task. The humans moved with silent precision, calm in the face of overwhelming odds. As the aliens advanced, they assumed the humans would panic or flee. Their weapons fired, sending energy beams through space, but the human ships were fast, agile, and coordinated. Taro's fleet used the asteroids for cover, appearing and disappearing in unexpected places. Every movement confused the aliens, making them overreact and separate from their formations. Taro led a special strike team targeting the alien command vessels. These ships controlled the entire armada, and if they were disabled, the fleet would crumble. Moving silently and with perfect timing, Taro struck at the engines and weapons systems. The alien leaders struggled to respond, but their communications were damaged and their formations broken. The human fleet pressed the advantage. Small teams struck at supply lines and reinforcements, causing chaos in the alien ranks. Each successful attack spread confusion, fear, and disorder. The aliens had never faced an enemy so clever, so coordinated, and so fearless. Every misstep they made gave humanity a greater advantage. Young pilots, who had once been nervous or unsure, now acted boldly under Taro's guidance. They used every skill he had taught them: observation, patience, and precise timing. They targeted weak points, avoided unnecessary risks, and struck decisively. Together, the human fleet moved like a single organism, guided by one quiet mind. The turning point came when Taro anticipated an aggressive attack by the alien flankers. He positioned a hidden team of ships within the asteroid belt. As the aliens advanced, the humans struck from all sides, trapping the flankers and damaging their engines. The alien ships collided, misfired, and became stranded. Their once powerful fleet was now in ruins. Even the largest and most heavily armed alien ships could not recover. Their weapons systems were destroyed, engines disabled, and communication networks in chaos. The aliens tried to retreat, but human ships pursued them, striking at the weakest points and preventing an organized escape. The armada that had once seemed unstoppable now lay in ruin. Taro remained calm throughout the battle. He did not celebrate, he did not shout, but his focus inspired every pilot. Every move was deliberate, precise, and effective. His calm leadership turned fear into courage and doubt into determination. Humans fought with skill and unity, proving that one intelligent mind could guide many to victory. By the end of the battle, the alien fleet was shattered. Many ships had been destroyed, others abandoned, and the survivors fled in confusion. Human colonies were safe, and humanity had achieved an incredible victory against an enemy thought unbeatable. The galaxy had witnessed the power of strategy, patience, and courage. Even after the battle, Taro remained at his console, studying the remnants of the enemy fleet. He knew the aliens might return, but he also knew humanity had grown stronger. Every pilot had learned that clever thinking, observation, and precise action could overcome even the greatest power. The humans were no longer victims, they were a force to be reckoned with. The victory spread across human colonies. People celebrated not only for survival but for proving that humans could face any challenge. Taro's silent leadership became legendary. Stories spread of the quiet human who had changed the course of a war, who had taken on the mightiest fleets and won. The aliens, for their part, learned a hard lesson. They had underestimated one human, and that mistake had cost them dearly. From that moment, no enemy in the galaxy would ever dismiss humans as weak or insignificant. Taro, ever silent, continued his work. He prepared for the future, trained new pilots, and guided humanity with calm wisdom. One human, determined and clever, had shown the galaxy that strength was not only in numbers or weapons but in thought, patience, and courage. And so, humanity rose from the shadows of fear to become a proud and confident species. Fleets that once seemed unbeatable lay in ruins, and the galaxy learned a new truth: never underestimate a human, especially one who fights with silence, strategy, and unwavering determination.